this time. Chael, when you were first approached about possibly filling in for Dan, when were you first approached for filling in for Dan Henderson?
You know, I got a call yesterday, I would say about 5 p.m. from Dana White.
Now, Chael, this started to pick up today that Dan Henderson was injured, and there was an announcement that you were possibly going to fill in, and you probably thought you were on your way to Las Vegas for this fight. What was your reaction when you heard that Jones turned you down?
You know, I just don't know why he won't fight me next Saturday. What else does he have to do? Is there like a wine tasting at the local racetrack or something I haven't heard about? I don't know. You know, I don't know what his deal is. And maybe Dana didn't make it clear enough that he was willing to fly Jones out. Maybe John thought he had to drive.
Well, put yourself in his shoes. Last minute, having to fight a different opponent just over a week, isn't it fair to think that you could err on the side of caution?
Yeah, you know, absolutely. And with everything, you know, you give a guy 90 days and you can err on the side of caution. You give a guy a year, that's completely fine. You know, we're a volunteer army. Nobody has to fight. Nobody has to go with this company, go into this line of work. But when you choose to, and when you sign your name to a contract, when an industry is counting on you to honor your word, you've got to honor your word. Dan Henderson was on one leg and did everything he could to still make that date. Dana White flew him out, had his own doctor look at Dan's knee and just said, look, you can't go. So Dan Henderson on one leg was willing to do what Jon Jones, who's healthy, isn't willing to do. So sure, I think your point's fair, but I think mine's just as fair.
So, Chael, what do you think the real reason was for Jon Jones not to fight you?
Look, Jon Jones has his own way of going about things, okay? This guy is an entitled brat. And when you get that way, you're surrounded with people that tell you these things. You don't think of anybody else but yourself. You know, he's now with Nike. Nike with Jon Jones is going to have to change their slogan to just do nothing.
Do you ever think you will see a Jones-Sonnen fight perhaps in the future in the octagon?
Oh, absolutely. All he's doing is delaying the inevitable. Look, I can beat Jon Jones, but he can beat me too. This was his big opportunity to get me on 8 days' notice. Okay, 8 days' notice is going to turn into 0 days' notice because the final week, all you do is make weight and do a media tour. I never would have stepped foot in the gym. I would have got 1 mile, 1 round, 1 jump rope, nothing under my belt before walking into that ring. This was his opportunity to sway the scales in his favor. Now, when I come to beat him, next time I'm going to get a contract, I'm going to get 90 days, I'm going to have a normal training preparation. This was his big opportunity to slip one past the greatest icon this sport has ever seen, and he missed it. He missed it like a chump.
Chael, you've been in this business.
This guy makes peanuts compared to what I make. I'm the highest paid fighter in the UFC. I know anytime you talk money, you sound like a brat. I don't mean to do that. Okay, I fought back when there was no money. But the reality is I'm at the top of the pay scale right now. I offered him in writing. I heard you read it on your show. I will give him my entire purse just so that the show goes on, just so that the guys on the undercard who haven't been at this long, that are counting on their $5,000 and $10,000 paychecks to make their mortgage and car payments next month, could have a job next week. I would do that for the industry and for the company that I love, for the fans that I fight for. And this little brat isn't going to step in the ring on 8 days' notice. How much notice do you need? Let me ask you a question, and a question of all your listeners right now. Have any of you ever been in a fight where you got 8 days' notice? No, that's not real life. You think our soldiers over there get 8 days' notice before somebody throws a bomb their way? You got to be ready right now. That's real life.
And that would have been the answer to that question. But really quickly, for UFC 151 canceled, you mentioned the guys on the undercard. What is the residual effect of having to cancel this card, not only for the promotion, but for those fighters?
Well, look, the promotion is going to move on just as strong as ever. The promotion always does. Okay, these are absolute geniuses that are running this thing, especially on the topic of fight promotion. But for the fighters, this is going to be really hard. This is going to make things very, very hard on these guys who are struggling. And it's not just the athletes. There's a domino effect. The athletes that have trainers, they then have managers, they then have their team and their sport partners that are all expecting a paycheck. And some of those guys, and I don't say this to be dramatic, absolute literacy and sincerity. Those guys, it's a difference of eating or skipping a meal for some of those guys that are down the chain, some of his training partners and stuff. They get a domino effect and a residual of one of their athletes competing, and they're going to lose out because one brat couldn't find the courage to step up.
Well, we certainly hope to hear from Jon Jones in the days ahead. It all happened very quickly, but Chael, thanks for joining us here on SportsCenter and giving us your time.
Always a pleasure. See you, gentlemen.
Just student.